world, people are taking to the streets and protesting their governments in hopes that they will bring about change. Now, to start this afternoon, we wanted to take you through some of the major protests that have been shaking the globe, but often don't get enough media attention. RT's Rachel Blevins is joining me now to break down all the details. Rachel, what can you tell us about these protests and the people who are taking to the streets?
Well, Scotty, we continue to see an increased level of unrest around the world as citizens take part in protests against their government's policies. Now, let's start in Spain, where thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in multiple cities after Spain's Supreme Court sentenced 9 Catalan separatist leaders to between 9 and 13 years in prison for their roles in a failed independence bid back in 2017. Now, while the court acquitted the leaders of the charges of violent rebellion, they were convicted of charges that include sedition, misuse of public funds, and disobedience. Nearly 40 people have been injured in the protests that are still ongoing right now, and police were seen in full riot gear as crowds gathered at Barcelona's International Airport. In addition to impacting more than 100 flights on Monday, the protest sparked at least 45 flight cancellations on Tuesday. Then in Ecuador, nearly 2 weeks of massive protests could be reaching an end after the Ecuadorian government reached a deal with indigenous leaders. Now, thousands were seen rejoicing in the streets in the country's capital after President Moreno agreed to cancel an austerity package that cut fuel subsidies and sent prices soaring, sparking violent protests that left 7 people dead and more than 1,300 injured. Following the deal, members of the indigenous community were seen engaging in cleanup efforts after they called off future demonstrations and road blockades. Meanwhile, in Haiti, a 5th week of protest is underway as tens of thousands of citizens take to the streets calling for the country's president to resign. Now, allegations of corruption among Haiti's government officials has grown in the country as it battles inflation and residents suffer from fuel and food shortages. Now, the violent demonstrations have left nearly 20 people dead and nearly 200 injured. Hundreds of businesses have been forced to close, and an estimated 2 million students have been prevented from going to school. So, Scotty, these are just a few of the protests that we've seen around the world, but they really do show that people have power whenever they gather together in a mass amount to speak out about something they believe in.
And Rachel, protests are nothing new to the world. However, I think it's the number and the reasons and what unites them that makes this so interesting. Thank you so much, Rachel, for covering.
Thank you.
Now to another major protest that we've been following for months. RT's Michelle Greenstein is on the ground in Hong Kong and brings us the latest.
On Tuesday, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam spoke to the press, condemning the recent attacks by protesters on the Hong Kong police and explaining her recent statement that it's not feasible at the moment for Hong Kong to have a public debate on universal suffrage. She thinks...
Good afternoon, I'm Alan Martin. We are following some breaking news right now. Another earthquake has rattled the Bay Area. This one is a 4.8 magnitude quake. It hit near Tres Pinos, which is near Hollister in San Benito County. 4.8. Population of Tres Pinos near Hollister is about 500 people, but certainly this could be felt throughout the Bay Area, especially the South Bay. I believe we have Len Ramirez, KPI X5 reporter Len Ramirez on the line. Len, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Alan.
Hey, I'm sure you felt it there in the South Bay?
Yeah, I'm actually in Santa Cruz, and I was sitting in my news vehicle here, and there was somebody leaning up against the side of the car, and we were having a conversation. And it felt like that person was shaking the car. And then I looked around.
Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. A double honors to your apostles, elders, salutations to your Akim. That's out there doing the work of truth and sincerity. This is Anaya Allah with the beloved truth. And, you know, today's lesson, I was going to call it Lights Out, you know. Basically, we're referring to, you know, the times that we're coming into, you know. Literally, the lights are going to be out. And spiritually, the light of, you know, prosperity is going to go out, you know. And, you know, the wisdom is going to disappear from this place, man, you know. And we're headed into that time, you know, and things are just becoming more surreal, man. You know, as the scripture said, at the end, it shall speak and not lie. We're seeing these prophecies, you know, take pass every day, man. And one thing I believe one of the elders mentioned is that it was at one point where the prophecies wasn't taking place every day like they are. They were taking place like once every few months or so, you know. So it's spread apart. You know, the prophecies were pretty much spreading apart. But now, as the scriptures talk about, you know, they shall come as a woman in travail, you know, the birth pains, you know, and that's how this place is going out, man. All right, that's how this place is going out. Okay, and it's beginning to be surreal to see, man. You know, but I'm gonna start with Romans 13:11. Only had a few precepts, you know, and Lord willing, you know, brothers is, you know, edify, you know, just some short, just based on what we're seeing, man. You know, that door is closing. You know, the famine of the word is approaching. The hour of Jacob's trouble is approaching. And it's important to keep saying and pushing these things because, you know, as the scriptures say in 1 Thessalonians 5:1, man, we, which I'm going to get, you know. So I'm going to read this and I'm going to go to the 1 Thessalonians 5:1. It says, Romans 13:11, it says, and that knowing the time, all right? And that knowing the time. So we know that the time that we live in is what? The end times, all right? It says that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, all right? And that sleep is what? A spiritual darkness, man. Being spiritually dead to what's going on, okay? And so most of our people are spiritually dead, you know, and that's why is there urgency, sense of urgency to what? To push, because we still have a job to do no matter what, you know, things in the world, you know, well, our personal lives. It doesn't matter what's happening in our personal lives because the world that we know in the life that as we know it is going to perish, all right? Living a certain standard and hoping for prosperity and all that shit is going to pass away, man. All right, because this is the time of the Lord's vengeance, and it's important to know this. All right, it says for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. So these things are the prophecies we're at the end, as the scriptures say. It shall speak and not lie, you know, regarding the prophecies. So we're at the very end, man, where it's speaking. So there's no more, you know, saying this is going to happen, this is going to happen. These things are happening, all right? And while the rest of the world is blind, the elect are waking up, all right? Because what? It's going to explain. Verse 12, it says the night is far spent. And what? This place represents the night. This current rulership that we're under, Esau's kingdom, the so-called white man's kingdom, is that night that's far spent. All right. It says the day is at hand, and the day represents the kingdom of heaven. Yahweh Shai, you know, as the scriptures speak about him being the morning star. All right. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, meaning of this world. These things that we have learned from this world, we need to cast them off. All right. And let us put on the armor of light, which is the understanding of this word, you know, and ultimately understanding what the will of the Lord is and what our purpose is within that, the scheme of all things, so to speak. All right, let us walk honestly as in the day. So it's calling for us, what the Spirit is calling for us to actually become, you know, become more honest in our walk. All right, that means a level of accountability for what we do and say. You know, holding ourselves to our principles, you know, keeping our dignity, you know, all right? So it says, as in the day, not in rioting and in drunkenness, all right? Because people are spiritually in that riotous, drunken state, all right? Not in chambering and wantonness, meaning undisciplined, all right? Let's go into the word chambering, you know, because you got Israelites that claim they're Israelites and they're in this type of spirit. All right, in chambering, it says bed, couch, a place for lying down, resting, sleeping. The Greek word is kiota.
Strong's G 2845, koite.
Koite. All right. So people are in that type of spirit, and that's why the scriptures in Revelations 3:15 speaks about being lukewarm, and, being cold, and the Lord spewing those out of His mouth. All right, because right now is not the time to be in the spirit of relax. And the Lord ain't. If you're part of the elect, the Lord is not going to allow you to relax anyway. Especially if you got a job to do. Especially if you got a job to do, all right? It says the marriage bed of adultery. So you got those that's, more focused on the lust of the flesh, resting, sleeping in the bed, couch, marriage bed of adultery, cohabitation. Salakia, I couldn't get that word. Whether lawful or unlawful, sexual intercourse, all right? So it's guys out there that claim they're Israelites, and that's the only thing that they're focused on, fulfilling the lust of the flesh. When the Lord, spoke, and I think it's Revelations where it says, blessed is them that basically that abstain, and abstain from these things of the world, okay? And yeah, we're going to have to cut off some of the things that we normally do. So we can get tighter in this time, because hey, Satan gonna be like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And so we live in a time where Jacob's trouble, these natural disasters are gonna start upticking, because it's birth pains right before the baby kicks, or it's time for that baby to be delivered. And in this case, symbolically, that's talking about the destruction of this place, man. All right, the judgment being delivered. It says, let us walk honestly as in a day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, meaning undisciplinedness, not in strife and envying. All right, but be on the Lord Yahweh Shai, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. And so that's the main thing. We're not supposed to fulfill the lust of the flesh, but rather pay close attention to the times that we live in. 1 Thessalonians 5:1, it says, but of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh, as a thief in the night. All right, when you least expect this destruction to happen, that's when it's going to happen. And when people filling their bellies and are comfortable at the most comfort state, where there's no, it seems like there's no turmoil, but there's plenty of turmoil that's going on in the earth. But when it comes here to America, to the shores of America, when it comes in its full force, man, it's going to come like a thief, man, and people are not going to be prepared. It says, for when they shall say peace and safety, and sudden destruction cometh upon them. See, I forgot about the scripture, but I spoke ahead. But it says, as travail upon a woman with child, they shall not escape. All right, and that's pretty much the point I wanted to bring out, because these pains, these were birth pains. When we see all these things, the uproars of the people, and we see earthquakes in the earth, these are part of the birth pains. Ultimately, because you can't hold back the baby from coming, just like we can't hold back the destruction that's coming upon this place, And so, yeah, we're going through our own personal things in our lives, but that's really insignificant towards the times that we're living in. And Jake need to understand that they need to gear up in their mind, like the scriptures say, gird up the loins of thy mind, because things are going to start happening. And yeah, you're going to have minor setbacks. You may even have major setbacks. But we got to understand what time we live in. So the setbacks, at any time and point, it can kick off. Boom. It says, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. You all right? You are the children of the light. All right. And so if you're a watchman, if you're constantly watching, and if you're constantly in the spirit as much as possible, it's a hard thing to stay in the spirit, but if you're in the spirit, you know full well what time it is. All right. You know what time it is. All right. Therefore, let us not sleep. All right. It says, ye are the children of the light, meaning we had the wisdom of Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai. It says, in the children of the day, we are not of the night, nor of darkness. All right. And so that goes hand in hand with that Romans 13. All right. All right. We're not of this world. We don't have the mindset of these niggas in the world who are complacent, who are wanton and undisciplined, and who only want success, prosperity. But this is the time of the Lord's judgment. All right. He not giving out prosperity, giving out judgment, man. All right. It says, therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And that's the main thing. Watch and be sober minded. Be sober spiritually. Okay. Not not with pride, not dealing in pride, not dealing with strife and envy. All right. Be sober. All right. Understand what the will of the Lord is. Understand what time we living in, and gear up, man, and get your mind right. All right. Because this shit is in. This world is through. This world is through. Okay. And no matter what Esau does with his miracles, or his main man-made miracles, or I really want to say his witchcraft, okay, because he's gonna make it seem like it's sweet and everything's all good. It says, the scripture said, the victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, man. And that they should think themselves to be in good case. All right, and that's the point. We not as other men forgetting what the hell's going on. Because, hey, man, the Lord is going to judge the hell out of this place, man. It says, but let us who are of the day, slack it. It says, verse 7, for they that sleep, sleep in the night. All right, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night, you see. But let us who are of the day, meaning of Yahushai, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet, the hope of salvation. You see, the hope of salvation is up. And we're supposed to be increasing our faith with salvation. And that's why the Lord is showing himself. He's showing his chariots. He's showing him the strangeness of our salvation. For the Most High had not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Yahushua. So we're not appointed to be caught up in the mess. Lord willing, we of that number, we're not appointed to be caught up in that mess with everybody else, with them being destroyed. All right. And the Lord is not going to do that to us. Okay. This is 2 Ezra 9:3. I wanted to bring this out first, actually, because, it fits the scenery or the visual that's in the beginning of the lesson. All right. 2 Ezra 9. I'll start at 1. It says, He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, you see, and that's what we're seeing now, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So this ain't nothing new. All right, the Lord been proclaimed this from the very beginning. All right, and so we shouldn't even be surprised when we see all these things take place. We should know immediately what time we live in and how close we are. Okay, how close we are. All right, and what we need to do to solidify our spot, Lord willing, make our calling and election sure. It says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. All right, okay, and we're seeing it manifesting itself right now as we speak. Even so, the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonder and in powerful works and endings and effects and signs. So we're seeing the endings and effects and signs, man. All right. It says, and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, meaning evils and dangers. All right. It says, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. So the Lord, man, this is all pre-planned out, man. And so there's nothing we can do against it. The only thing we can do is be for it. All right. And I wasn't even trying to say that, but This thing was pre-planned from the beginning. And the only thing we can do is prepare ourselves, you know. And Lord willing, this was edifying. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Kodash. Double honors to your apostles, elders at Great Millstone, salutations to your Akim. Shalom.